Hello, my name is David Owens II, and welcome to Introduction to C++ Streams. In this course, we're going to be learning three things. The first is a very high-level overview of what streams are and how they're used in C++. The second is how we can read data from a specific type of stream, i.e. a file. And finally, and this is really an extension of the second, we're going to be learning how to read data from a CSV file. If you're not familiar with the CSV file, it stands for comma separated value file. And we'll be talking a little bit more about those later. So let's talk briefly about my expectations of you for this course. For one, I'm going to be assuming that you understand C++ well enough that you can create a simple Hello World application in your favorite IDE, Visual Studio, Xcode, whatever. If you cannot do this, you should check out the free C++ VTMs offered here at 3DBuzz before you continue on, or get some training elsewhere on that. Next, I'm going to assume that you already know a little bit about object-oriented programming. We won't be dealing with it much in these VTMs, but we will be creating a class or two, and I won't be explaining the fundamentals of object-oriented programming. With all that said, this video is definitely a video for beginners and those just learning how to work with streams. So when we talk about streams, we're really talking about a little more than the way that we transfer data from one place to another. So an example is if we have data stored in a file, if we want to gain access to that data, we would use a stream to do that. And really, it's not much more complicated than that. When working with streams, we work with one of two classes of streams. The first class is an input stream. Input streams are used when we wish to bring data from one place and use it in our program. Some of the C++ classes for input streams are an IF stream, which is the stream class that we use when we wish to read data from a file. There's the CN object, which is a special object that allows you to grab data from the console window. And there is the iString stream, which is a fancy way of creating a string as a stream. This allows us to use some of the same functionality and operators that are available to streams on strings, which can be kind of handy. So there's a bunch of other classes, but these are just a basic set of them. The second class of stream is the output stream. And output streams are used when we wish to send data from our program to another location, such as a file on disk. Some of the C++ output streams are the OF stream, which is a stream class we use when we wish to store data in a file. There's the cout object, which is a special stream object used to display information to the user via a console window. And there's also the OString stream, which allows us to write to a string using the stream mechanics. And again, that's a pretty useful thing, and we'll be using that later on in our program. And of course, there are classes that will allow you to do both input and output. This is useful when you need to do both. You need to write to a file or read to a file, and you don't want to create multiple instances of the object. The project that we'll be creating in these videos is going to do two things. The first, it's going to read data from a standard CSV file. And the second thing is it's going to be able to read data from a CSV file that allows empty lines and also comments. So if you don't know what a comma-separated file is, I have some sample data below. Essentially, it's a plain text file that contains multiple related values on a single line with the values separated by a comma. So that's kind of a mouthful, so let's kind of walk through it. So in our example, you'll see that we have George, comma, Washington, comma, 1. This corresponds to the three values that we're interested in: the first name, the last name, and the order of presidency. Each new line represents a new set of related data. So if you look in the next line, you'll see John Adams, 2. So each of those are two separate entries and then all the data is separated by a comma. So that sums up our introductory video. Let's get to creating our project.